Hey everyone, Reid Henrichs with Ridge, and the purpose of today's video is to talk about budgeting for an armed lifestyle. I know that times are very tough economically for a lot of us. I know a lot of you have families. Some of you got kids and wives and family members and everything, and people you're responsible for. And I know that being armed can be expensive, or at least relatively expensive. So I'm going to give you some tips today on how to do that and what you should prioritize with doing first. And this will hopefully be a guide or a checklist to help you along, a nice template. So let's get started. When we're talking about having an armed lifestyle, folks, what I mean is that you've got to have a gun for both inside and outside the home. I've done a video on this one. If you could only do one, would you want a pistol or a rifle? And I overwhelmingly suggest a pistol. We've already covered that. But you do need to have a firearm for both inside and outside the house. You've got to be armed. And the late Jeff Cooper said that if you can't reach out and touch a gun, you're unarmed. I'll take it a step further and say if it's not on your body, you're unarmed, especially with the exception that when you're asleep. But very important that you have a gun for both inside and outside the house. The second most critical part of an armed lifestyle is that you got to have ammunition, folks. That's just the bottom line. I mean, a gun without ammunition is like a car without fuel. It's just not going to work. So you got to have ammo, and you got to have ammo for not only your practice, but also for training and for self-defense. You got to have ammo for 3 different areas on that. The third part of the armed lifestyle is that you got to be proficient. You have to have some skill at arms. You have to be able to hit what you're shooting onto. You have to be able to do that, and that usually comes with training of some type. I don't care if you've got a bazillion classes, or you're in the military for 20 years, or you're a police officer, or you've just got a couple of classes under your belt. You do need some training of some type. And the fourth and final component of the arms lifestyle is that you've got to be willing to use this. And I truly mean committed and willing to use it if the need ever arises. And we'll get to this later on in the video. So how do we budget for this? How do we budget our resources to accomplishing those 4 goals? It's very quite simple, and believe me, I understand what it's like to live on a limited income. When I was in graduate school, I lived and survived off $950 a month as a graduate assistant. That's what I got paid. I went to school full-time and worked a pretty good amount as a graduate assistant. I got paid $950 a month. I understand it. I still went out, I still shot, I was still able to go and practice and even train to a small degree. So I get a limited budget. I get what it's like to do that. And that's where a lot of this information comes from, is how I was able to maintain an armed lifestyle even during those times of pretty slim pickings on the money tree, if you know what I'm talking about. Wherever you can cut expenses, you've got to do that. It's very simple, and it's not as difficult as it may seem. For example, I know a lot of people that don't really like to cook, and so what they'll do is they'll get takeout all the time. If you actually add up your takeout money over the length of the month, it adds up to a pretty big deal. A typical meal anymore will cost you anywhere, $8 to $10. That's $300. So how do we cut expenses on that? Well, first and foremost, cook. I'm talking meals that you can prepare a couple of days in advance. A big crock pot of chili, very cheap. If beef is expensive, substitute turkey or chicken. You can do this. If you even want to go vegetarian for a while, you can do this. Hey, I didn't say this would be easy or comfortable. I said this is going to be manageable for the time being. Meals like that. Eat the leftovers. Skip meals. At one point in time during my life when I wanted to buy a piece of equipment, I went down to 1 meal a day, and it was ramen noodles and tuna fish. 1 meal a day, and I stayed at home and watched the same 4 DVDs over and over again. It's how committed you want to be, but you can make ends meet. So cut expenses where you can. Take less trips in the car. Go out to eat less often. Here's a simple one, coffee. I know a lot of people that'll go to a coffee shop in the morning and spend a couple of bucks. That ends up adding up to a huge amount every day of the month. It adds up to a few $100s depending on where you go and what you buy. The second part of budgeting, and this is the crucial thing about this, is that you've got to prioritize your needs. I'm going to try to help you out the best that I can here, having done this for almost 2 decades now, and I'm going to tell you that prioritization is vital. Priority number 1 is being armed with a gun. So we're going to have a quality firearm. Go out and get a quality gun, and I'm not going to go through a list of what every single quality gun is that I could recommend to you. Folks, there's plenty of information out there about what a quality firearm is. My advice would be to avoid the new and gimmicky stuff that really hasn't been tested, or like there's a couple video reviews on it, so all of a sudden it must be great. No, I'm talking about guns that have worked for decades, that have a proven combat record to work in good conditions, and that are probably used widely in law enforcement. That would be a good clue. Another good clue would be, how long has the gun been in service? How long has it been proven to work? and how many times has it been used against bad guys? That would be number one criteria in my book, is a proven track record of success. You're going to want to get the gun right the first time. You're going to want to buy it once and cry for it once, and you want to get it right the first time. I'm going to tell you this right now. I've never read a bad review in a gun magazine over a firearm. Not one time. And in the 15 years that I've been reading gun magazines, I've never read a bad review on a firearm, despite knowing full well how awful some of them have been. So make sure that you pick your criteria, and make sure you definitely check the source of the information where it's coming through, because I can tell you all that there's a lot of lies out there about a lot of guns. So go with something with a proven track record of success. The other part of your prioritization, besides getting a good quality firearm, that's the foundation of it all, besides that, you're gonna have to get trained in some capacity or the other. We don't just go to the range and blast rounds. That's not training. I've got news for you. If you think going to the range and shooting a bunch of rounds is gonna prepare you for deadly force, you are sorely mistaken. You need some kind of training, and I don't care who you get it from, okay? If you get it, well, first of all, you can't get it from us the rest of the year. We're sold out, and the first 2 months of next year as well. We would love to see you. If you want to come see us, that's great, but you don't have to get it with Valor Ridge. You can get it from a number of quality outfits out there. There are dozens of good schools out there that will teach you how to do this. 1, 2, 4-day class, whatever you want. Get some training in some capacity. And I'm here to tell you all straight up, folks, that anybody that would tell you that you don't need training, no one who has ever been in a gunfight or encountered violence in any form would tell you that you don't need training. It just won't happen, because everybody that I know that has been in deadly force and that has encountered violence on a regular basis will tell you that absolutely you do need some training of some type. So you're going to want to budget money for training in some capacity. In fact, I would put the training and the gun together. I would consider that a package deal. If you get the gun, get the training. Consider it a bundle package deal. So we've got the gun, we're gonna get the training, we're gonna need the ammo as well. Now you're gonna need ammo for 3 different categories. You're gonna need your supply for training, which could be anywhere between 500 to 1,000 rounds depending on the class, maybe even more. I just got done taking a class where we shot 2,500 rounds in a week. So we've got to consider that we're gonna need ammo for our training classes, and I would allocate that separately. In fact, when I get my ammo, when I buy ammo, I label it and say for this class, or for this class on this date, and I just leave it and don't touch it. But you're also going to need practice ammo. Here's the good news. When it comes to practice, which practice is that we actually go out and use what we learned in training. We actually go out and practice those skills, those repetitions. What I like to do is that the majority of your practice doesn't cost you a dime. It's free. And I'm talking about dry practice. I know it's boring and it's not glamorous and it doesn't make noises and it's not exciting, but here's the reality of it, folks. That the pros, the best shooters in the world, practice far more dry than they do live fire. I don't know what number you could put on it, but I can tell you in my personal practice regimen, I fire 10 dry practice shots for every live fire one. It's a 10-to-1 ratio. It's free. So the majority of your practice, the overwhelming majority of your practice should be dry. And then we go to the range to verify with live fire that we're actually doing it correctly. That's 10% of the issue. So we're talking 90% dry, 10% live fire, and that should save you some money as well. If you abstain from that coffee, that $4 at whatever gourmet coffee shop that you want to mention, $4 a day for a month is $120. If you did that for 10 months, that would be $1,200 that you could spend on ammo. That'll get you a pretty good supply of pistol or rifle ammo. Maybe split it halfway down the middle, half pistol, half rifle, and you're set, folks. If you do that for 10 months, ask me how I know about the $4 a day. You walk in college in those little coffee shops, a little frozen orange mocha frappuccino, right? It's tempting if you want to get that, but you got to abstain from it, and I'm going to tell you why. Nobody ever wishes that they had less ammo when they need it. So we want to make sure that we budget that accordingly. And I just wanted to give you that as an example. If you abstain from $4 coffee for a month, it's $120. Put that money towards ammunition or put that towards a class and you'll be much better served. You do not need 100 magazines, expensive gear, or tactical clothing to protect yourself or your family. Let me tell you a story about a student of ours named Brandon. Brandon is an awesome guy who he's not wealthy by any means. He's a hard-working guy, never taken a class before, and he budgeted for a while to take one of our classes. And he budgeted, for a while. Like as I told you, he doesn't make much at all, and he had minimal equipment. And I mean minimal. I'm talking minimal equipment. His rifle was a $350 rifle. an old surplus military arm, SKS, and he had another pistol, which is a small, simple pistol, held 6 rounds, and those are the only guns that he owned. And I'll tell you something, with an iron-sighted SKS running 10-round stripper clips that he ran out of a little bag attached to his belt, he was out shooting the majority of the class. First round hits, iron sights with SKS, high upper thoracic cavity, first round hits every time. If you found the information in the video helpful, subscribe to the channel, like me on Facebook, the link's down below. If you want to get some training coming out to Valor Ridge, and we'll teach you how to do whatever you need to do on whatever gun you want. This is Reid Henrichs of Valor Ridge reminding you, the lessons that we learn are written on the tombstones of others. We'll see you on the ridge.